And those receipts are from 2014?
Yes, this is what's posted on our 2014.
Maybe they forgot they stopped paying.
Right. We have what they call a detailed audit trail report. So we run that because this way we can see every transaction, it's just not like a summary total. So we went through that.
Last year? I don't think so.
You know, it could have been.
Excuse me, it was some for last year, was in that others, that's why I say, in that 312,000 was a lot of different things.
There was a remainder, I'm sorry,
Maybe that's
there was
it.
a remainder chunk from after all the grants were given to the homeowner. Right.
Okay, moving on.
Madam Chair, Darreen,
Yes.
Jackson?
further up, under the 46-110, is the traffic cameras.
Yes.
I see you're projecting $1.1 million for the rest of the year,
Yes.
and you're basing that on,
I'm basing it on memo that I received from Chief Popielarczyk based on a survey that they had, sampling that they had taken for 3 days. And so for those 3 days, and you can help me out, Chief, we went through this, for those 3 days, our share, our 60% share would have been $190,000 for the 3 days. So what I did, first of all, I projected this for 3 months, October, November, December, to give the money time to start coming in. I also projected half a month. I didn't just take the 3 and move it up to a month, that 30 days. I used it for 15 days just to be conservative. And then of that, I assumed a 40% collection rate because we would not collect all the money that they. So, we discussed it, and so that was from his best guess. I guess they did an actual survey. I think it was a Warrensville, was it?
correct?
Warrensville. So we had some documentation for this number. So you want to do the math, it's the 190,000 for 3 days, not for a month. So I assume that we may ramp that up for 15 days. So I multiplied 190 by 5 to come up with a monthly. And then I took 40% of that, assuming that we would collect 40%, because my experience has been we can collect anywhere from 30% to 50%. So I used 40. And then I did it for 3 months, October, November, December, not to be overly aggressive in terms of the money coming in. Because it's gonna take 60 days or so before we receive any dollars from this. So that's where the million, we were sort of surprised and happy. We were.
I hope we do get a 1.1 in. I guess my thing is, I guess this is assuming that those months would be equal in kind as far as the number of tickets that would be written. And I guess I would take into account, number one, that once I drive down Warrensville and get a ticket, I'm not going to speed down Warrensville again. Number two, the winter months I think will be less than the summer months just because of street conditions. So with those two factors, I think multiplying a summer month and projecting that through the fall and winter months, and that people should learn from their mistake in getting a ticket. But again, I hope we get them in.
Well, that's
I'm
why
just
they use a whole month. That's
cautiously
my exact reason
about
for
it.
not using 30 days. I use 15 days. I assume 15 days in a month.
Mhm.
Okay. And, just to speak to that, maybe I should not say this, but I have gotten several tickets on my way to the airport, same spot, So, that may be true, but you'd be surprised how many repeat offenders you have.
That's great. Yeah.
But again, if I may defer that Chief speak to it, maybe they have some information.
Okay.
You have a question, a specific question?
In case he wants to discuss what his thoughts are.
Chief, you are also going to move these from area to area. You're not going to keep it in the same areas, correct?
No, there'll be additional cameras, but the way it's set up, they're movable, they are portable, but they won't move in a general sense, at least not at the beginning. They're on trailers. They're big big trailer pieces that can be moved, but no, the way it's set up right now, at least for the short term, we don't know. I imagine if they stopped producing it, they would want to move them. Or if, in other words, if we calm the traffic in that area, then it would be time. My understanding is, or not my understanding, what is going to happen is this. There's going to be 2 cameras set up on Warrensville Center that are going to cover 2 lanes, or all 4 lanes, both northbound and southbound. 1 camera will cover the northbound lanes, 1 camera will cover the southbound lanes. Broadway is the same thing. I didn't bring the information with me because I realized we were going to discuss it, but I actually have the places in terms of where those cameras are going to be set. I can give you general locations on Warrensville Center that they're going to be at the Dollar Bank. On Warrensville is at least one of them. The other one's the DFW on Broadway in that area. Those are traditionally high enforcement areas for us as well. Mr. Brownlee approached me a number of times with some email contacts and conversation regarding the cameras in terms of the revenue, and perhaps that there would be too many citations issued as a result of this, based on the numbers from our study. I called John O'Connor, who's the representative for Optic Traffic, to try to get some clarification from him, because obviously that's a concern of us, of mine as well, is that we don't want to create a stigma for the cities, and a lot of people have attitudes about the cameras. In speaking with him, what he told me that we could anticipate with those cameras would, the study that we did, when the actual units are there, and they'll be in place a week before the enforcement starts, with sensors in the street and with giant trailers, that'll have an impact on the traffic to begin with. He also said then that the first month, no one will get more than 2 citations. They were saying that that's a concern. Multiple, they're not going to, somebody, because part of this, what we may be getting in our study as well is people driving back and forth to work the same person every day. These are things that they'll filter and screen for us before we come back. He assumed a 50% collection rate, if I'm not, I think, on the, I don't have the numbers again.
It was 50%.
Yeah, right, 50%. And actually, this is just covering Warrensville Center, but he estimated with our numbers and even with that in place that he was thinking that we potentially do, at least in the first couple of months, $200,000 per month. And then, but that number would, by the end of the first month, we'd go down 35%, and by the second or third month, it could be down, or 90 days, it could go down as much as 50%. But he still felt that those numbers would be pretty consistent, especially considering we have 4 cameras. We're basing that on the Warrensville Center study, but I mean, the dollars generated on that would still be around that amount.
So that's conservative but doable.
Well, in my opinion, but again, you don't know. I mean, it's budget, and as they said, we can amend or make changes as often as, we don't get the money by the end of the year,
So, I mean, we have, I remade it back to the best guesstimate. What he's giving us and what I'm making is the best guesstimate. And as we discussed with Mr. Brownlee, I have no idea what these are actually going to generate until they're in place if we start doing them. And we'll just have to see what actually comes in. I've been in contact with Chief Majoy over in Newport Heights, who runs the same program there. They don't have as many cameras and they don't have as much traffic. They pull a significant amount of money. So it's and look, the money is based on the violations. I know that part of the stigma is that it's a traffic camera. It's not right. If I had a patrol officer out there writing the same number of tickets, what would be the difference?
Well, the patrol car is bigger. You can see
It's
that.
going to be about the size of it's going to be about the size of a speed device.
They have this Cleveland.
I mean, it's my understanding. I haven't seen it, but it's a pretty big trailer.
Is it?
Yes, the ones I thought we were going to get the pole cameras, which are very small, but the trailers are not.
Are they the ones similar in Cleveland? I'm sorry.
I don't know because I don't.
Because they're about half the size of this table and about this high, and you
I would
can
guess
see
that
that
that's-
they're white.
From the size of the generator.
Yeah,
bigger
yes,
than that.
about the size of the generator.
The trailer with 2 wheels.
Okay.
You said it goes down 30% in the first month usually, and then in the latter months, how much does it go down?
I believe he said 50% in the
50%
first month.
the following
Or, I'm
month.
sorry, 35% in the first month and 50% after about 90 days.
50% after 90 days.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I have a question. In the neighborhood news, is a petition going around,
I read that.
So how would that affect, us?
Adversely, if it gets put on the ballot,
Yeah,
but.
we have to think about that.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, these are 2014 appropriations, correct? Right? Okay, so I mean, even if it got, I don't know how quickly legislation like that would take effect, but the election's not until November. The cameras will go live at the end of July. I confirmed that today with our off-the-traffic representative, so.
And we also don't know how many signatures it would take to see a petition, the folks that are against this. So that's another thing to do, is to call down the Board of Elections, because if they base it on the previous election, it could easily get enough. But if it goes back to at least that's what the mayor was saying this morning, if it goes back to the general election that we had 2 years ago, that was a bigger volume. So it's a percentage of the people that voted for the petition. I'm sorry, what?
As governor this year, it's going to be heavy voting.
It could be heavy voting, but the signatures needed for the petition. Yeah, so that, we'll check on that soon to have some idea. Okay.
Yes, there's also the question of whether it would be required to be at the Board of Elections on August 6th, or if they do as a charter amendment, they would have more time for signatures because charter amendments aren't due until September.
It was a charter. Yeah, I think you're right. I thought that's what they did. Yes.
I've done extensive research on these numbers, because at first it was shockingly high that we were going to bring in millions of dollars, but then we found out that we're going to be issuing 2 per month, which I think is reasonable. But then also that just the sight of the camera being up along the side of the road, people are going to be, oh, what's going on? They're going to put 2 and 2 together, seeing the sign, seeing the speed camera, slow down a little bit. This study was done at a point in time when the signs weren't even up yet. The signs, or they had been up for a couple of days by this point in time. So we are taking for our sample something that's far outside the situation that will be happening in August once these cameras are up. But I went through and I figured out there's about, I think it was 2,000 people each day that travel through the city on Warrensville. Yes, monthly. There are daily speeding drivers, 1,200. That was each day of the study, about 1,200 people. That was both ways, yeah, figuring it for both ways. And if we figured that each of those people can only get 2 citations in a month, well then you can only issue 2,400 citations roughly in a month if there's 1,200 people speeding down in Warrensville. So that's 2,400 people in a month that can be cited. If we assume we only collect 75% of our fees, we will collect, the total collected amount will be $181,000.
And 40%.
But we only get, that's at 75% collection rate. But we only get 60% of that collected amount, because ops traffic is the 40. So that gives us a monthly total of $108,000
For Warrensville Center.
for Warrensville Center.
Right, so you have
And
to
if we
figure
assume Broadway is similar,
Right, and we have traffic study on Broadway now, as far as the numbers, and they are.
so that would add up to about $220,000 per month if we just doubled this number for Broadway. But if we just go with Warrensville for a moment, and we assume how it declines, according to what Op Traffic told us, the first month it'll be 108,000, second month 76, third month 76, then it drops again to only 54,000 and 54,000. This is 50% of people stop speeding. So you add all of those 5 months up through the end of the year, it only comes to $369,000.
Just for Warrensville.
Just for Warrensville. So you double that. Let's say it's 350. So we'll say that's $700,000. That's significantly less than 1.2. So I believe, no, it's at 1.4 on here. 1.1. So that's significantly less. That's $400,000 less. So we want to be cautious with the projected
So you
numbers.
did an actual study yourself? So the study
Yeah, I took the
you did
studies.
for that one?
But he took the data that we had and then based it on,
Oh, I
the
see, well,
Yeah.
And you look, we had our conversation on the phone as well, where I explained to you, some of this in terms of what I'd gotten from OptiTraffic. I will tell you that in spite of the reductions at OptiTraffic, again, John O'Connor said that $200,000 per month would not be an unreasonable number, even with the reductions. And I'm not disputing your math in terms of what he's saying, I'm telling you what he told me on the phone. And then perhaps it would be beneficial to have him.
Was that for one camera or two?
That was for, well, it was actually, we're talking about 2 cameras on Broadway and one.
Two, so it would be $200,000.
You said with that amount, that you could realistically look at that number. And it would stay, in spite of the reductions, it would still stay relatively constant throughout that type of income. And because that was when we discussed, as I discussed with you, perhaps reducing the speed at first in which we actually started creating violations. Look, the bottom line is the program's run by me through the police department. I'm not going to let things go crazy in terms of that we're going to have $1 million in the first month, because that would just be cutting our throat as well. We have to be reasonable to the people that are coming through town. But by the same token, a violation is a violation. And I don't know. I mean, we can do all kinds of voodoo math, but the bottom line is, my opinion, and again, is if what they're telling me is this is what we're going to pull in per month, and I'll make my best guess on that. I don't think the Ms. Carl's numbers are that far off. In light of what they're saying, especially since you're considering it over. Now, what I will say is that that number isn't going to be fair in terms of a month period, because there's going to be a period of time where you are going to, in other words, the citations won't be issued immediately. We're going to, say we go live on the 27th of July, there's a 15-day period before we even start getting things. It's not like we're going to get things all of a sudden and boom, they're now. There'll be, I don't know exactly how long things sit in the queue before we have, and then we have 15 days to review it. And they have 30 days to respond and pay. So, I mean, what you may wind up with, especially initially, is you won't see anything in August and you don't see anything in September, but then all of a sudden in October, when people start paying summons, you're going to get a big dump of money. And then that may taper off, then is what he's talking about in 45 or 90 days for the 30-day window in the lane. So,
Go ahead, Tony.
I just have a comment. I think we have to be kind of careful with some of the numbers, and especially with it being on camera and it's probably going to go viral, because we also have the 2 issues on the ballot, and my fear is that everybody needs to know that we need to have funds and we need to have operations and we need to keep the senior center open. And even though we're doing the traffic cameras for income, we're also doing it as a safety and as a traffic calming type of thing. So, and we're not sure how long-lived that program is going to be either, and I'm just hoping that people aren't going to wipe one out for the other. And that's like, I think we're going to maybe lose voters on the levy issues because they think we're going to be generating all this money from the traffic cameras. And then if whoever's taking this petition out, and then it does end up becoming long-lived, and we have 2, possibly 3 levies in the ballot, we're going to be batting 0. So I think somebody has to really reconsider when they're doing, or when they're signing for certain things, and we really have to work together. I'm talking about the petition.
Yeah, we're not planning it.
Yeah, I'm all over the place on this, so.
Please, and we also have the opportunity to take the reader levy off if we think that it's going to be over a burden.
I think that would be the wisest thing at this time.
Well, we'll see at this point.
I would.
Can we,
Okay, we have to finish this, but.
are we finished with the red light camera, or do we still have lingering questions?
They're actually speeding cameras.
Right.
They're not red light cameras, they're for speed.
Touche.
The speed cameras.
Oh, I like red light.
I know.
Can I call them personally?
I know.
But they still speed through the red lights.
Yes, they do. Thank you. I stand corrected.
I have a question about the enforcement of it. If I get a red light speeding
chair?
ticket, yeah.
You had to say that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. If I don't pay my ticket, what can, or what's going to be done? What can be done? Can you stop me from getting my sticker for my license plate?
No.
Can you arrest me?
No.
If you stop me and I got 20 tickets and you pull me over?
It's civil, the law is civil, which means that there's no criminal penalty.
So what incentive does a person have to pay?
Well, civil law includes civil penalties as well. You can be taken into collections.
Okay.
It can hurt your credit rating. They can set penalties for you, or what they'll try to do is get you to come in for an administrative hearing, more than anything else, but they'll take you to collections and they'll try to collect the debt.
Okay. Because then when it goes to collection, then the collection people then will have the power. Would they have the power then at that point to, if they don't pay, to take them to court or garnish your wages or anything like that, or down
If
those
they can
lines?
secure a civil judgment against whomever it may be, then yes.
Okay. So there's not nothing, it would just take
It takes
some
time.
more effort in order
Well,
to
it's, because
get
of, I
that.
mean, and council approved the ordinance, I mean, it's a civil ordinance. I mean, it's, like I said before, I mean, for me, to me, it equates a civil demand for shoplifting, or theft. In other words, the company or the city has the law is being broken, whether it's whether it's a speeding violation or whether it's something, or a theft offense, because it mirrors. In civil demand, a retailer has the opportunity to go after the person who stole their property civilly, even if they choose not to pursue them criminally. In essence, when council approved this ordinance, again, in my opinion, this is what you've done, is you've allowed a civil remedy for a traffic offense. So with that in mind, I mean, when those offenses occur, then rather than saying, well, we're going to send you to criminal, to a court of record, from municipal court, we're saying, look, you broke the law, this was your vehicle, you should have made sure that it wasn't. You need to get past this morning.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, Anthony.
Madam,
I'm sorry.
the collection, it may be something that we could, again, give to the Ohio Department of Attorney General. that
We
signed
talked,
up for.
we talked about that, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
just like
Thank
point
you,
out again
Jonathan.
that, Hop Traffic itself will handle any, they handle the collections for.
Right. Go ahead, Anthony.
I think the overall opinion, from what I get, is council would be more comfortable with a lower number of about 700,000 in your projection in this line item. Any objection to changing that?
Personally, I do. I think it was a very good estimate. It was done with some concrete information, and just based on what I've seen in other cities, council has the prerogative to change any numbers, but I think dropping it that low. I mean, we said this is based on 3 months, half a month, and a 40% collection rate. My thought is, if the camera's not gonna do any more than that, I don't think we really, I mean, just based on what I've seen cameras do in other cities, it's been quite healthy, $400 and $500 a month. But, this is my best guess. I stand by the number. No, I don't know if any of these numbers gonna come true. They're my best guess. None of them may pan out, But this is my best guess, so.
Madam Chair, 2 members of council. The other thing that's not being considered, that perhaps should be, and it wasn't, and where it may make some of you more comfortable in terms of that number is, we have to remember that come September that there will be traffic cameras located in school zones as well. Okay, those are going to generate income in addition to the cameras on Warrensville Center and Broadway. We don't know what those numbers will be because they are because there hasn't been a traffic study done there yet. That will be done as the school year progresses, because obviously a study with school being out would be kind of senseless in conducting it. So that may, well, it will affect the bottom line and may make that number more realistic than what we think.
I'm just making a comment, it's a goodwill effort, since there will be a lot of parents that may be ticketed because they drop off the kid and then zoom off to work. If we could maybe let the Board of Education know if they could put that in part of their calendar or something, just to let the parents, residents know about what's going on, especially in light of the school. I mean, I know we want the money, but we want the money from outside Maple Heights, we don't really want to target our parents.
Madam Chair, to address your question.
You did that already, didn't you?
No, but we were, first off, I mean, we were very closely with the school system regarding all things, whether it's the traffic patterns on down the road, and the drop-offs, or just anything of a general need between the community and the schools, with a very good liaison with the school security, Richard Ridge in particular. And we have done it numerous times, for example, around the high school with the walking in the street issue and parking, where we have made notification, and as a matter of fact, we addressed this, a traffic issue on Broadway near the convenience store near Lee Road, because parents were continually dropping their children off on Broadway in violation of what the school told them and impeding the flow of traffic. We put notice out to the school. We'd obviously, first off, it would just be part of the notice program, because much like there were notices for these cameras, there have to be a notice for those cameras, letting people know if they're going to be in place. We would do that for the school. The schools now, of course, in addition to just the normal paper things that we're used to, have the all calls, or they call people's cell phones, they call their home phones and put it out. We could address that issue with them there and let them know that there's going to be traffic camera enforcement there. Because certainly, that's not our point, is to hurt people or drop them. But we do want them to be attended in the school zone.
Thank you. Irene, I have a question, and again, it's probably just an estimate again, but we have been talking about the RETA collection of taxes. Is your estimate here and the collection estimate close to what you really anticipated? Are we back again to the deficit in collection?
I had a meeting with Mr. Thornburg on Friday, June 27th, to answer those questions. He proposed some ideas for collections, which I would bring up at the Finance Committee, but my biggest conversation with him was getting a projection for this year, and he brought me all these documents that we looked at, and then based on that, I mean, for example, let's go back to May. When we received our May distribution, which was a couple $100,000, we received it in June. Well, the report, when he brought it to me, showed that they ran the report before the end of May. So, because he gave me, they run the reports to get an idea of what it would be. So he ran the report maybe like, I think May 27th or something of that nature. So it showed the 300,000+, and that's what they gave us. So when they had the complete month, and they ran it like in June, after the month it actually closed, it went up about $150,000. So based on that, we looked at 2 or 3 different samples. We looked at a sample from last year. We looked at what we had received to date, and assumed that we would receive the same amount through the rest of this year as we did last year. Because I think that one of the assumptions was that the peak period in terms of that adjustment was over, because of the taxes. That the rest of the year should be quite similar to last year. So we went through those different scenarios, and this is the number that we came up with.
Okay, good.
And he brought documents. I have paperwork here, So it's still a little less than 2013 because it was 6.5, but it was a little more than what I had originally projected at 64. It went up about $61,000.
Okay.
The last column shows the difference between my original projections and versus what was on this report. Some went down, some went up.
Okay. Any other comments on this, questions on this page?
Yes, I have a couple, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The line under the traffic camera, the MHSD fund, what is that?
I have no idea. That's why I didn't put it in. I mean, we researched it. I had staff doing all this analysis, ran all these reports, and so I figured since we weren't budgeting anything, we had not received anything, so I just left it off. If it comes in, then it'll be to the good, but we had no idea what that was, so I don't know if anybody else here knows, but I didn't, but we ran some detail.
School district? I don't either.
But I'm just saying, we received no monies to date for that, so I just left it out, being conservative, so if you get something in, it'll be for the good.
Okay.